Perfect. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can see me okay. There we go. Try and center that a little bit. So I'm live on Facebook. I'm live on YouTube. And I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see me. I don't know if the YouTube one's backwards. If it is, it's the app and there's nothing I can do about it. And I'll try my best to see the chat. If you do need to chat with me, do me a favor and go to the Steve Stine Guitar Facebook page, because that's where I should be able to see you at. Let me see if I can get your chat up here. Here we go. So if you make comments on there, I should be able to see you on there. Let's see if I can get that going. I got a lot of stuff running right now, so we'll see if that's working. Okay, so anyway, we're going to be talking about pentatonic expansions. Robert was wondering about it, and I promised him that I would do it, so I'm going to talk about it. So basically what we're going to be doing here is just talking about taking a standard pentatonic. Again, if you're on YouTube, it might be easier to go to my Steve Stine Guitar channel on Facebook, because I can do some zooms and things like that with my guitar, change my camera angles and stuff like that. Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me. It's good to see everybody. This is not working. I was hoping to see your chat here, but that doesn't want to work. So I'll just answer your questions as best I can. So again, let's go ahead and get started. So this is for Robert. He asked about this and I promised I'd make him a video. So what we're going to do is I just want to help you a little bit in understanding how you can get a little more creative with your pentatonic scales. Yeah, sorry, this is 290. Yeah, no worries. And I'm doing the best I can to make both of these feeds work for everybody. So just stick with me and do the best we can for the feed. Hopefully the bit rate is okay. So anyway, here we go. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take and go to the 5th fret, and I'm just going to use A minor pentatonic. Okay, and on YouTube, if you could let me know if you can hear me okay, I can always turn this up a little bit. Hey Assad, if you need me to, Facebook should sound pretty good because it's all running direct, but YouTube, if you need me to turn that up a little bit, please let me know, okay? Perfect. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and figure out how to make this more interesting. Now, don't worry about the technique and the speed and that sort of thing. I just want to show you some notes that you can use to try and have some more fun here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this pentatonic and we're going to take the top 3 strings where you're playing 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. And what we're going to do is we're going to convert that into a 3-note per string thing where you're going to play 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about the logic behind it, but I don't want to bore you with that sort of thing in case it's not really what you're into or you don't really understand it anyway. But what happens when we do that is we're actually taking this note here, which is the 8th fret of the 3rd string, and that note is what we refer to as the blues note or the blue note when you play pentatonic. When you play that 8th fret of the 3rd string, it sounds bluesy. And a lot of times I like to use that note. I'll just play it, or I'll do slides to it. See, notice how I slid up and slid back? Or sometimes I'll just slide this way. There's just all kinds of cool stuff we can do. So that in itself is a really great way of being able to expand your pentatonic, but we're going to create a shape out of that. So I'm going to take that 5, 7, 8, and I'm also going to do that on the 2nd string, and I'm also going to do it on the 1st string. So I get this sequence, this symmetry, if you will, of all of those. Now the cool thing about this is when you start messing with it, you don't have to pick them. And you know, again, I don't live in a world where everything is always picked or everything is always hammer on and pull off. It's finding what works best for you. When you execute these things, figure out what works best, right? But those sequence of notes you can have a lot of fun with that stuff, and you might use 1, 3, 4, you might use 1, 2, 3, you know, whatever works. But I try and make little patterns out of them So like right there, what I was doing was playing 8, 7, 5, and then I'm going to A to the next string, and then I'm going back to the 5, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this string. So I have... See that? How cool that is? I mean, you can just make all sorts of different things with that, but it's just kind of fun because you now have this group of notes, you know, like this is kind of a Dimebag Darrell thing going like this. And what I'm doing right there is I'm playing 5, 7, 8 on the third string, and then I'm going to 5 on the second string. And then I'm just going backwards. And when I get to the beginning, I just go up again and go to the first string, 5th fret. So I have... And you'll notice I'm not repeating the 5 on the third string. When I get back, I just keep going. I'm not going... I'm not doing that. I just keep playing. So again, I'm not saying that what you're looking for is always speed. That's not the point. It's just there's a lot of really neat things you can do. Now, before I go on to the second thing, the other nice thing about these notes is the 7s, especially the 7s on the second and first string, which, if you know anything about your theory, are actually kind of coming from Dorian, if you know what that is, and if you don't worry about it. You can just play them. But the nice thing about those 7s are you can bend those up a half step to become the 8th fret that was pentatonic in the first place. And you get some really great stuff like that by just playing, for instance, right here, I'm going to play 8, 7, 5 on the first string. And then I'm going to go back to that 7 and bend it up. And right there, what I did was I bent the 7, brought it back down, and then went to the 8 and bent that up, like I normally would. That's a little better. I think I got something fretting out. Maybe my hair's in the way. That's a little bit better. Okay, so I can do that on the second string too. Okay? So, and the other thing is I don't need to play any of this fast. I can just play... And what I try and screw around with is, instead of just playing all of the notes all of the time, is choosing some of the notes out of there and combining them with different notes. So maybe I play 5, 8, which gives this really wide kind of weird sound with that blues note. And the next string I'm going to play 5, 7, 8. And then I'll play 5, 8 on top. So I have... Or maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll play 5, 7, 8, and then 5, 7, and then 5, 8. And again, you'll get this really kind of unique sound by doing all of these different things. The most important thing, everybody that's watching, is that you have to spend time exploring the ideas. You know, it's always easier when somebody just gives you some licks to practice, but the truth is, sometimes when you get those licks, they're not your licks. And what I mean by that is they don't fit you. You try them and you go, nah, I don't really like that, or it doesn't really feel right to me. A lot of times what you have to do is just screw around with some of the notes and see what kinds of cool things you can come up with, so it does feel good to you and it does sound good to you. So I always think I can use all of these notes in kind of a faster flurry sort of thing. And then the other thing I like to do is use the bends, like I just showed you. And then the last thing is I try and find different groupings of notes that sounds a little more interesting. Now, the second thing that I'm going to give you, I don't want to take all of your time here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm sorry I can't see your chats, but I just appreciate you being here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand out now and add some more symmetry to this thing that we're building. Now, if I can play 5, 7, 8 on the first string, of course I can play it on the 6th string. And that's fine. Sometimes I do, sometimes I just keep it 5, 8, just keep it minor pentatonic. But here's the good stuff. Is you go to the 5th string and you can play 5, 6, 7, and then 5, 6, 7 on the 4th string. Hey everybody, so the 5, 6, 7 on the 5th string, that 6 in the middle is actually another blues note 1 octave lower. So again, it sounds really bluesy. notice how when I play it, I don't just have to go like... It sounds cool like that, chromatic up and down, but I can actually do some stuff like this, where maybe I go... Hello from Nepal. Viva Nepal! Okay, so there's our expansion. So now I'd have 5-8, 5-6-7, 5-6-7, 5-7-8, 5-7-8, and then 5-7-8. And then again, I find a lot on the 6th string, I just play the 5-8 because it keeps that bluesy minor pentatonic integrity. Now again, I wouldn't use all of these all the time, but what I try and do is screw around with the sounds that I'm getting. Like right there, you'll notice I played 6-7 on the 4th string, and then my blues note. And there I get some real blues sounds. And then maybe I want to go into something a little bit faster. So I run into something like that. You see? So I can use some of those bends, all these different things kind of working in conjunction with each other. But that comes from the time that you spend messing around with it. So always learn the template, if you will, the idea behind it, and then get in there and start messing around with stuff. So you can always go sequential, right, like this. But that's not really where the good stuff is. The good stuff is when you start trying to combine different ideas. And what I've always thought of, which I'm going to show you coming up, the 4th one I'm going to show you, is trying to build like ideas, like playing a half step, then a whole step, then a step and a half, like different visual tools like that I'll use when I play. Like this one here is kind of cool. It's actually diminished, but it doesn't really sound like diminished when you use it in a blues or rock and roll context. I could play 8-5, and then 7 on the next string. I'm glad you like the sound of that amp. I do too. And then 8-5 on the next string, so I have this. And then down to my root, my A. So I have... See how cool that sounds? It's a diminished sound, but over the A, it sounds kind of cool, and it's just using the notes of this pentatonic and some of these expansions, but in a more unique way. So again, let me show you in case I ran by that a little bit too fast. I'm playing 8-5, 7, and then 8-5 right there. But then I go to that A, and I get that kind of sound. So I've got all the notes together to create sort of a faster, legato-ish kind of thing that I might want to do, or maybe I'm using more of those bends. Of course, that blues note is always wonderful. And then you got this kind of diminished thing, and then if I need to keep moving into the thicker strings, that's when I start using this 5-6-7 stuff. Okay? Picture that seems a bit slow. Yeah, and I apologize if the picture is a bit slow. I'm actually, my internet gets upgraded this spring to fiber optic, and once I get there, I should be fine. So I just gotta wait till spring, and then I'll probably wind up doing a lot more live stuff too once I get that done. So anyway, the first expansion that we had was this 5-7-8. The second expansion that we had were these thicker notes, or thicker strings, excuse me, using 5-6-7. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is a bit more awkward, and it takes a little bit more manipulation to make it sound good. But again, you see players like Eddie Van Halen and Dimebag Darrell and just a lot of players like that will use this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off on the top here again, playing that. I'm going to play this direction now. So I'm going to play 8-7-5. But then what I'm going to do is go 8-7-5 on the next string. And this is where the big thing happens, is I'm going to move back to the 4th fret. Okay, so I'm moving back to that 4th fret of the 2nd string. And now what I'm going to visualize, okay, is 4, 5, and 7 on the 2nd string, on the 3rd string, on the 4th string, and on the 5th string. Now, it doesn't really make any logical sense, but it's really fun to screw around with because, again, it's a symmetrical shape. So if you think about the sounds of that, it's kind of major and kind of weird, but you get these really unusual kinds of sounds by doing that. Now, again, I don't have to use them all together all the time. I could just use a little bit of it in conjunction with something else that I'm doing. You see there, what I did was I started off with this 5-7-8, and then I slid back into the 4-5-7, and then I came back out into the 4th and 5th strings, that 5-6-7 thing I did. And I'm sorry if it seems like I'm going a little fast. I just don't want to take everybody's time. And really, I'm just jamming. That's all I'm doing, and that's what I'd like you to try and mess around with as well. Okay? Does guitar playing cause arthritis? It could. I've got arthritis, and it's probably from that. I don't know. I can't say for sure that it causes arthritis, but it sure seems like the more you do repetitive stuff, you get repetitive stress injuries, things like that. But see how cool that sounds? There's a lot of neat stuff that you can do with that, okay? So again, just an idea to do. And maybe you just go down and do a lick. Maybe you're just using the 4-5-7 for a lick like this. Watch this. I'm going to go 4th fret of the 2nd string there, and 5th fret of the 2nd string, and then I'm going to use my pinky on the 3rd string, 7th fret. And you get this weird like speed racer kind of thing. But see how I can slip back into the pentatonic, and that's the other thing I want to remind you is as you learn all these weird expansions, don't think you have to use them all in all the notes all the time. The beauty is when you come back to the pentatonic will then sound fresh again. You see? Like there, what I did was, so now I'm using the 4 of the 3rd string, but then I jump back into that pentatonic again, and it sounds kind of unique. One of the weirdest things for me when I was younger was when I learned how to, like when I was a teenager, probably even into my 20s to a certain degree, when I would learn an idea, when somebody would show me a scale or something, it seemed like it was biblical. Like I couldn't change it. I couldn't do anything with it. It is what it is, and that's what it's supposed to be, and that's what you play. And it took me a number of years to realize that half the fun of guitar is all the unique sounds that you can get out of this thing. You can squeeze all these sounds out by exploring different ideas, doing different kinds of things. And that comes with practice. And it just comes with patience and spending, like everybody that's watching this right now, please learn to spend a little time every day on creativity, just exploring something. Yeah, you might not be getting faster and you might not be getting, smarter theoretically and all these things. But I think so many people, when they don't practice creativity. They just practice things that they've learned. Somebody has showed them, or they learned from a song or a book or whatever it might be. And they don't really spend time like listening to the sounds that the guitar makes and figuring out what feels most comfortable to you when you play. That's half the battle here. So if you stop worrying about how fast something is or how much you know or something like that, and those are all good things, don't get me wrong, but you really start trying to figure out what works for you when you play. How long do I play every day? Oh, I would say, just core practice. Like right now, I don't consider this practice. This is, demonstrating something. So this to me isn't practice. Okay, when I'm making videos, I'm not practicing. When I'm practicing, that's when everything is off. I would say a couple hours a day, probably. Sometimes more, but usually a couple hours a day is what I get in. Okay? All right, so that's the third one. So the first one was this stuff. The second one was adding in the 5-6-7 on the 4th and 5th string. And the third one is this exploration of this 4-5-7, which is a little weird. Yep, I see. I can't see the name, but it said I struggle with what to practice. Yeah, I get it. And maybe next week I should go live and talk to you guys about practicing, because the big thing is just figuring out, first of all, how much time you have, and second of all, what's most important to fill that time. If you don't have 3 hours to practice, don't set up a 3-hour schedule and then get mad because you didn't get it done. Be realistic of how much time you've got to practice, and find the most important things for your journey. If you're a 20-minute a day practice person, you're probably not going to learn how to shred in 20 minutes a day. But that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, there's a million other things you could get really good at. Again, I think another thing that people don't spend enough time with is trying to write music. Just screwing around with stuff on the guitar and see what kinds of things you can come up with. And then if you find something in there that you go, wow, I really want to learn how to do this, or I really need this here, well, that's a perfect reason to practice that then, okay? Okay, so anyway, do I accept Bitcoin donations? I do not, and don't worry about donating anything. I'm just glad that you're here, okay? So the fourth one we're going to do here is more of a blues-based one, and you might have seen me do videos on this, but this is one of my favorite things to do with the pentatonic scale. We're going to twist it up and make it cool and ugly and everything like that. So what we're going to do is take that pentatonic, and we're actually going to combine minor and major and some of these other things together to create this weird hybrid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, the sixth string can still be 5/8. I'm cool with that. What I'm really looking for is on the fifth string, I'm going to play 4/7. On the fourth string, I'm going to play 5/7. On the third string, I'm going to play 5/6, which is real bluesy sounding there. Okay, and then on the, so if you notice, I went 3 fret to 2 fret to 1 fret. You see that, how I'm building that shape like I was telling you about? And now I'm going to start spanning out the other way. So I'm going to go back to 5/7 on the second string and 5/8 on the first string. So I have this. Now if I play it like with a kind of a swing feel, you get some really cool sounds in there. Now the 5/6 on the third string, you got to be a little careful of, because when you do the 5/6, you want to do the 5/6 forward, right? We'll call this forward, whether you pick them or hammer them or whatever. What am I doing here? I have an exam tomorrow. You better go study. So I'm going to do that forward motion. If I want to move to another note, like let's say I want to go to the next string, the thin string. You know, in whatever capacity. You know, I can do whatever I want. I don't just have to do 5/7. But when I do the 5/6, it sounds really cool to keep going toward the floor, right? Or maybe you want to go to the root. That's a great way of using it. Here's my point. If I play it 6/5, it begins to sound a bit more exotic and it sounds less bluesy. Now it sounds cool, no doubt about it, but it just sounds a little bit different. So the trick is to always try and use it as a forward motion. So even if you're coming down this way, see that? And then you'll maintain that bluesy sound by keeping it forward from 5 to 6. So I might play the 7 prior to playing that and then do the 5/6. And it still keeps that bluesy sound. So before I move on, what I just said to you is really important. Like, this is what I've learned how to do really well in the last 10 years, is instead of getting overwhelmed, like you're watching this video and you're going, wow, that's a lot of stuff, you just take one idea out of it, just one little thing that you can use, the smallest piece that you could possibly use, and that's it. Okay? You just learn to add that to your playing. So even if you just learned how to use this 5/6, just that. That's cool. You could use that all over the place. So I'm just substituting the 7 for the 6. And when I come down, just that. You see? So now I could take all of these ideas. Now the last one again, so I don't rush by it, I went 4/7, 5/7, 5/6, 5/7, and 5/8. But you can see how there's all kinds of little elements in there. I could start off doing that. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I'm glad this is helping you. This is awesome. So hopefully that gives you a bunch of different things that you could work with in trying to expand this, okay? So I'm sorry that the video took a little while to get to, and I thought I would just go live and share it with everybody, and And hopefully that helps you a little bit. So please do me a favor, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or follow me on Facebook, or look me up on Instagram under Steve I. Stine. And I'll keep new stuff coming all the time, and you can always let me know new ideas that you've got for content, and I will be more than happy to keep making it. And also visit me over at GuitarZoom, guitarzoom.com. We actually started this new guitar club thing where you get, if you sign up, you get a bunch of free videos and all that stuff, and then you can actually, you know, join and become what we call a VIP member. So that would be cool too. So take care, everybody. Stay positive. Hopefully that helps you a little bit, and just keep practicing. Okay. Take care. There we go. See you guys. Take care, everybody.